This is not just a bike, far from it. It's the product of years of testing and trialing different equipment to try to produce a machine I can ride as far as possible, as quickly as possible, as comfortably as possible. So in this video, I'm going to go through everything I've bought, everything I've developed myself, in the hope it might help you to develop your own bike for those epic days out in the saddle. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Chug Norris. This is my endurance rig for 2025. If you watched the video last year, there are some changes to the build this time. Some of them pretty obvious straight away off the bat, and some of them I'll get into shortly, some comfort upgrades I've added since last year. So where to begin? I think the obvious place to start is the frame set. That has not changed for 2025. It's not a major priority for me to upgrade the frame. I don't really have any complaints. Well, I've got one complaint about the frame which I'll come to. Other than one small minor gripe, I'm pretty happy with that frame. I've been riding it for several years now. It's a Mason definition and the size is a 54 actually. I'm a smidge over 6 foot and the 54 was the right size for me. I did originally order a 56, and when I went to the barn to test ride the bike, which anybody can do, I really recommend doing that because I picked up a 56, far too big. The 54 was the right size for me. I'm not sure why that is exactly, but going and test riding at the barn, that saved me all kinds of trouble. So 54 it is. Maybe I'll change that for 2026. I hope so, but let's see. I'm not sponsored or supported by Mason, but I'm more than happy to push that brand. I've met them several times, decent people, great bike, and fully recommend Mason bikes. The only small issue I have with the frame is the saddle to bar drop. If you look at the height difference from the saddle to the bars, I'd like the bars to be a little bit higher. For me, riding all day, having the bars that much lower, it just puts a bit too much pressure on my hands and my neck. I'd like it to be a little bit more upright. If you look at the Mason Aspect, that's a slightly newer frame, it's titanium, but I've test rode one of those and it has less of a drop to the bars. So maybe next year, if the budget allows, that'll be an upgrade I can look at. I did try to get sponsorship or partnership from Mason, didn't work out. So who knows, maybe next year. Well, the first obvious change is the wheels. When I rode on the loop, it's a 24-hour time trial, I put the wheels from my Specialized on this bike. I just wanted to go a bit quicker and I knew carbon wheels would make a real difference, but I didn't realize how much of a difference. Before I upgraded the wheels, I had DT Swiss aluminium wheels. Still have those wheels, never really let me down, but the second I put carbon wheels on this bike, it was absolutely transformed. I know everybody says that's the best first upgrade most people go for obvious reasons. I didn't really think it would be that much of a difference. It was night and day. So after the On The Loop, I went on the hunt for some wheels. I don't have an endless budget, especially with the cost of racing. So I found these wheels on eBay. Somebody was selling them, they got them on a brand new Canyon, and they were surplus to requirement. So I managed to get them for a really good price, new to me. It is a disc brake frame, obviously, as you can see. On those wheels, I've got Continental GP 5000s in 32mm. For me, over the years, I found that's given me the best balance between puncture protection, comfort, and speed. 32mm just seems to be about right, and GP 5000s never really let me down. All the while, they're fairly new tyres. Touch wood, I barely ever get any punctures. One thing I need to get on these wheels is a dynamo hub. I bought a dynamo hub specifically to build into this front wheel. So I've been to 3 different shops since and had nothing but trouble trying to get somebody to build me a dynamo hub into this wheel. I think the only answer I really have, I'm going to have to learn how to build wheels. So right now, no dynamo hub, hence the tape. The wiring's all there. Hopefully, after I come back from Bosnia, I'll get the wheels sorted, ready for Via. I know there's kind of 2 different schools of thought when it comes to lighting. You can get a power bank these days, lights with really good battery life, but for me personally, the dynamo just takes all the stress out of lights. I never have to consider charging. It's extremely bright, maybe even a little bit too bright, but in my opinion, for the kind of riding I do, it's perfect. The lighting that I have is an exposure Revo on the front. I'm not sure what the rear light's called, to be honest, but it runs off of the front light. So the power comes from the dynamo hub through the fork to the front light. Front light has an output that runs across to the rear light. Actually, all the wiring runs through the lining of this bag, so I don't even see it. My backup lights are also exposure. I've got an exposure joystick, which is not on here at the moment, and an exposure tracer on the back. I'm not taking any chances. So while we're on the lighting, I've also added some reflective tape to the seat stays at the back. So I want this thing essentially to light up like a Christmas tree at night. The last thing I want is to get hit by a car because someone says they didn't see me. They're gonna see me. So next up, I'd say the group set. I've got a Shimano Ultegra Di2 group set on this. I look back actually at the different bikes this has been on, and I'm guessing this group set's done around somewhere between 20 and 25,000 miles. It's a bit of a Triggers Broom setup. The derailleurs are original. I've had several cranks, loads of chains, loads of cassettes, but I really love Di2 for longer rides. I was speaking to Rupert today, funnily enough. When you're really far into a long event, shifting into the big ring just becomes really difficult when your hands are like lobster claws after several days of doing that. With Di2, I've just got to do a little click with my finger, and that's all. This is a 52-36 on the front, on the rear an 11-34. I really want as much gearing as possible on the rear. This is actually a short cage derailleur. If you didn't know already, Shimano do two sizes of their derailleurs. If you want to go above 30, I think it is, then you need to buy the long cage derailleur. Not true. If you adjust the B screw on these, they will wind out. I've gone up to an 11-34, that's plenty for me. But if you've managed to go bigger than that, then let me know, because I'll be interested. Pedals wise, standard SPD, bog standard, not the lightest, but they just work. I'm thinking more and more, I prefer these to road SPD SLs. I just like that I can walk wherever I need to in mountain bike shoes. They clip in nice and easily. They're far more practical. The only thing I might change, Rupert has a set with reflectors on them. We're going to need that as a requirement for VIA, but I quite like the idea of more reflectiveness anyway. So next, moving on up, the bottle cages. Because of the bags that I have, I've got side loading bottle cages. These are mountain bike side loading bottle cages from Specialized. I can't remember the name of them, but they don't make very many. They've never let me down. They look pretty good, they hold the bottles. Not much more to be said on that. So moving further up, bags for ultra distance. I've got quite an array of bags nowadays. These two tend to live on the bike pretty much permanently. An Apogura frame bag and top tube bag. I know some people don't get on with full-size top tube bags. When you get off the saddle, it does get in the way of your crotch a bit, but it's not much of an issue for me. I'm okay with that. So this lives on the bike permanently. I tend to have all my tools and things I need less frequently in the frame bag, food and clothing in the top tube bag. So moving further up, we're getting into contact points now, so the real comfort upgrades that I've made to this bike. My personal belief is, why suffer any more than you have to? If something weighs a tiny bit extra, but it means you can ride for hours longer because of the comfort, you're not going to be injured necessarily. In my book, just upgrade it. By the way, if you're finding this useful, helpful at all, then consider subscribing to the channel, give the video a like to let me know, or put in the comments if you think there's anything I should change on this thing. So the seat post has not changed this year. It works really well. I've got no real reason to change that. It's a suspension seat post, and it's actually from a brand called Ergon. It's got Canyon logos on it because somebody was selling it used. You might start to see a theme by now. I like to try to save money. So it's a Canyon seat post. It has just enough flex in it. When you sit on it for the first time, it kind of feels like you've got a slow puncture. It's got a lot of squish. You get used to that, but it takes all of the buzz out of your backside. And on the seat post, I've got a Brooks C17 saddle. It's an extremely comfortable saddle. The only drawback to that saddle, it's also extremely heavy. It does have a cutout, and it's made of a material called cambium. You don't have to wear it in. As soon as you sit on it, it's straight away comfortable. I've been trying to find something a bit better. I'd like something lighter. There are a couple of aspects of the saddle that I'm not really getting on with. For one, it wore a hole through my bib shorts. Someone said to me a long time ago, hasn't that worn a hole through your bib shorts? I said no. And here we are, a bit further down the line, massive gaping hole in my bib shorts. The nose of the saddle is rounded. I think if it was flatter, I'd get less compression into my gooch. and because it flicks up at the back, I can't really sit upright too much without rubbing on my backside. So generally, if I'm in one position, it's extremely comfortable. I'm finding it really hard to find something that beats it, but it's also niggling at me a little bit that it's not perfect. So moving in this direction, the stem is from Redshift. It's a shock stop stem. It has a bit of travel to it and some polymers inside. So it essentially has a shock absorber inside. It levers and pivots downwards, but the travel is not very much at all. But at the same time, the difference it makes to your hands is massive. The amount of comfort I got from that stem is definitely worth the upgrade. I did get a message recently from somebody asking, does it work on the road? Does it work with aero bars? And it's perfect. The amount of travel is really small, but the difference it makes comfort-wise, very noticeable. The handlebars, nothing really special about those. Dida 0100, I think they are. The bar tape is the super sticky cush. I like that bar tape. It's quite expensive, but it is really grippy and it's really comfortable. I do double wrap it, but only on the drops. I spend a lot of time on the drops, so I find a little bit of extra cushion there makes a big difference. So overall for my hands, double wrapping the bars, shock stop stem, 32mm tires, this thing is comfy. However, sometimes the events we ride, they're so long that your hands just can't handle it. No matter how comfy the bars are, you've got to take them out of play every so often. Not everyone believes in aero bars, but most people do. Just gives you that extra option to move your hands out of the way, give them a good stretch, and also get you into a bit more of an aero position. The aero bars that I've got are called Parabolica Uno by Dida. I've got no affiliation with Dida, they just make pretty good stuff. But the reason I like them so much is they have risers. That makes a real difference. If you have aero bars just on the handlebars, then you're leaning forward so much. For me, I had issues with my Achilles because I was compressed far too much. Having the risers means I actually find that my body's in the same angle if I'm on the drops or in the aero bars. It just gives me a different position to put my hands. And you might have noticed it's a bit of a mess around the aero bars. Maybe not as aero as it could be. On the side there with all the colourful cable ties, that's an Insta360 mount. Because I like to make videos, all I have to do is pull it out, click record, and it gives me a really good tracking shot head on, but I don't use it all that often. I've got a bell on there, believe it or not, but kind of pointless. Something about a bell, I don't know why, people don't pay any attention whatsoever, but when they hear this free hub, they leap across the bike path. And I've also got a couple of extra bags around that cockpit area. One of them is an Alpkit stem cell which I've had for years, and it's really good for my main action camera. I can just pull it out, record, put it away. It's always there in my aero bars. Up at the very front, I've got a bag that Redshift make. It's not made for those bars, but I made it fit. I had to move my aero bars out wider. It's such a cool bag. I'm really glad I managed to make it fit. It has a 3D printed Garmin mount. I don't have to look down at my map or at my stats. They're always right there in front of me. But also, I can fill it full of food, and while I'm on the aero bars, so I spend a lot of time in the aero bars, I can just pick up food all day long. Well, looking over the bike, I don't think I missed anything off. This is the base build for endurance for me throughout the summer season. As I go into different events, I'll tailor the bike for different purposes. For Be Hard, it's going to have the old front wheel sadly, but that's got the Sun 28 dynamo hub built into it, and I need that. I'll have a seat pack with a sleeping bag and a bivy bag. That's going to be added. And when I get to Via, which is a 4,000k race, it'll be pretty much the same as my Be Hard loadout, except by then I'm hoping this wheel will have the new dynamo hub installed. So that's just about everything. I'd be really interested to know what you would change on this. If you've got any suggestions for me on things that I might want to add or change, then let me know in the comments. Anyway, I'll leave this one here. I'll see you all on the next one.